Dr. Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her forehead as she guided her small shuttle toward Zephyr Station. The planet Kepler 442b grew smaller behind her, its purple crystal forests still glowing in the distance. She had spent 3 weeks down there studying the local wildlife. Her research bag sat beside her, full of soil samples and plant specimens, but the most important things from her trip were sleeping peacefully in the front pocket of her hoodie. Sarah looked down at the 3 tiny creatures curled up against her chest. They were no bigger than kittens, with soft gray fur and little pink noses. When she found them 2 days ago, they were crying beside their dead mother. A landslide had killed the adult and trapped the babies under some rocks. Sarah could not just leave them there to die. The shuttle's communication system beeped. "Shuttle 7 Alpha, this is Zephyr Station. You are cleared for Docking Bay 3, came the voice of the traffic controller. "Copy that, Zephyr Station." "Shuttle 7 Alpha coming in," Sarah replied. One of the cubs in her pocket made a small sound as it stretched. She smiled and gently patted her pocket. "Almost home, little ones." High above the station, Commander Thekvar stood on the bridge of his patrol ship. The Vraxian officer was 7 feet tall, with dark green scales and yellow eyes. He watched the human shuttle on his screen. His biosensors were running their normal scans of all incoming ships. It was routine work, checking for dangerous plants or animals that might harm the station. Suddenly, his sensor officer hissed in alarm. "Commander! I am detecting juvenile apex predator vocalizations from the human vessel." Thekvar's head snapped around. "What did you say?" "Biosensors show baby predator sounds coming from inside that shuttle. The signature matches." The officer paused and checked his readings again. "It matches young Shadowmaw cats, sir." Every Vraxian on the bridge went silent. Shadowmaw cats were the most feared hunters on Kepler 442b. Adult ones could tear through battle armor like paper. They were fast, smart, and nearly impossible to kill. Even the babies were dangerous. "Sound the alert," Thekvar ordered. His voice was calm, but his tail was twitching with worry. "Contact the station immediately." On Zephyr Station, Director Yolanda Martinez was drinking coffee in her office when the alarm started. Red lights flashed on her desk, and the station's AI spoke in its calm voice. "Attention all personnel. Code Orange quarantine protocol is now in effect. All docking operations are suspended. This is not a drill." Yolanda grabbed her communication device. "Control. What's happening?" "Ma'am." "The Vraxian patrol detected dangerous wildlife on the incoming shuttle," came the reply. "They say, Dr. Chen has Shadowmaw cubs on board." Yolanda's coffee mug hit the floor. Everyone in the galaxy knew about Shadowmaw cats. They were the reason most species stayed away from Kepler 442b's surface. Even the Vraxians, who were tough warriors, treated them with respect. "That's impossible," Yolanda said. "Sarah is a professional. She would never break wildlife protection laws," but even as she said it, she felt doubt creeping in. Humans had a reputation for doing crazy things with dangerous animals. Other species often talked about how humans kept predators as pets on their home planet. In the science section of the station, Dr. Kethara heard the alarm and immediately sealed her lab. The Zythek scientist was part of a hive mind, and she could feel the panic of her sisters throughout the station. Their collective intelligence was already calculating the odds of survival if Shadowmaw cats got loose on the station. The numbers were not good. 3 levels down, Ambassador Gleese's aura was in her water tank when the alarm started. The Nereid diplomat's blue skin turned pale. She had heard stories about Shadowmaw cats from other worlds. Her people lived in the deep oceans of their planet, where the biggest predator was a fish. The idea of land predators that could hunt and think scared her more than anything. Sarah had no idea about the panic she was causing. Her shuttle was now in the docking bay, but the doors remained sealed. She tried to contact the station. "Zephyr Station, this is Dr. Chen. Why am I stuck in the docking bay? Is there a problem with the airlock?" Director Martinez's voice came through the speakers. "Sarah, we need you to stay in your shuttle. Don't open any doors. There's been a report of dangerous animals on board." Sarah laughed. Dangerous animals? Yolanda, the most dangerous thing I have is a moldy sandwich. Can we skip the jokes and let me dock properly? I'm tired and I want a real shower. But the station director was not joking. Outside her shuttle, Sarah could see security guards setting up barriers. They were wearing full protective gear and carrying heavy weapons. Through her pocket, she felt one of the cubs shift and make another small yawning sound. Commander Thekvar's voice boomed through the communication system. Human vessel, this is Commander Thekvar of the Vraxian Patrol. You will submit to immediate inspection. Our sensors detect juvenile shadowmaw cats on your ship. This is a violation of Galactic Wildlife Protection Treaty, Section 12. Sarah's mouth dropped open. Shadowmaw cats? Commander, I think your sensors are broken. I don't have any cats except... She stopped talking and looked down at her hoodie pocket. The three little creatures were still sleeping peacefully. A terrible understanding began to dawn on her. These were not ordinary animals. When she found them, she thought they looked familiar, but she was so focused on saving them that she did not think about what species they might be. Now, looking at their small fangs and the way their ears were shaped, she realized the truth. The most feared predators in the galaxy were taking a nap in her pocket, and everyone on the station thought she was a dangerous criminal who was trying to smuggle weapons. Commander Thekvar paced back and forth on his ship's bridge. His yellow eyes glowed with anger as he stared at the human shuttle trapped in the docking bay below. Every few minutes, his sensors picked up more sounds from inside the vessel. Each time, his crew jumped and checked their weapons. "Sir, should we contact the Galactic Council?" asked his second officer. "Smuggling shadowmaw cats is a serious crime." Thekvar's tail lashed behind him. "Not yet. First, we deal with this ourselves. Humans always think they can do whatever they want. They act like rules don't apply to them." On the station, Director Yolanda Martinez stood in the command center, trying to keep the peace. Representatives from 3 different alien species were all talking at once, and none of them were happy. "Director Martinez," said Dr. Kethara, her insect-like voice clicking with worry. "My collective mind has run over 500 simulations. In 90% of them, the shadowmaw cubs grow up and kill everyone on this station." Ambassador Glycesera's voice bubbled through her water tank's speaker system. "My government will hold your species responsible if any Nereid citizens are harmed. We came here for peaceful research, not to become food for your pet monsters." Yolanda held up her hands. "Please, everyone calm down. Dr. Chen is a respected scientist. There has to be an explanation for this." "There is an explanation," Commander Thekvar's voice boomed through the communication system. "Humans are predators, just like their pets. They collect dangerous animals because they enjoy having power over life and death." "That's not true," Yolanda shot back. "Humans care for animals. We protect them." Thekvar made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded more like a growl. "Your translation systems are broken, Director. When you say protect, our computers here dominate. When you say care for, we hear control. For personal use." Yolanda felt her face turn red. She knew that translation problems happened between species. But this was getting ridiculous. "Commander, I've worked with humans for 20 years. We're not monsters." "Then explain why your Dr. Chen refuses to let us scan her ship," Thekvar replied. "What is she hiding?" In her shuttle, Sarah was indeed hiding something, but not what they thought. She was trying to keep the 3 cubs quiet so she could think of a way out of this mess. Every time one of them yawned or stretched, she could hear the security teams outside getting more nervous. Her communication system buzzed. "Dr. Chen, this is Director Martinez. I need you to be completely honest with me. What exactly do you have in that shuttle?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Yolanda, I have 3 orphaned animals that I rescued from a landslide. They were going to die if I left them. Are they shadowmaw cats? I think they might be. But they're just babies. They're smaller than Earth kittens. They can barely walk." Through the communication system, She could hear Yolanda talking to someone else. Then Thekvar's voice cut through. Dr. Chen, you will open your shuttle doors immediately and surrender the animals. They will be destroyed for the safety of everyone on this station. Sarah felt one of the cubs nuzzle against her hand. It was so small and warm and helpless. No, she said quietly. What did you say? Thekvar demanded. I said no. You're not killing them. They're innocent babies. The silence that followed was heavy and dangerous. Then Thekvar spoke again, and his voice was like ice. Human, you are now under arrest for violation of galactic wildlife laws and endangering a space station. You will comply, or we will board your vessel by force. Dr. Kethara's collective mind was working at full speed. Through the Hive network, she shared her thoughts with her sisters on other worlds. The humans' behavior was puzzling to them. Why would an intelligent species risk death to protect the offspring of their enemies? Perhaps, she clicked to Director Martinez, this is why humans are so successful in dangerous environments. They form bonds with everything, even creatures that could kill them. Ambassador Gliese Ara was recording everything for her government. The Nereid people lived in peaceful underwater cities, where the biggest conflict was deciding what type of algae to grow for dinner. The idea of someone protecting deadly predators made no sense to her aquatic mind. In our oceans, she told Yolanda, if a young shark loses its parents, we swim away and let nature decide its fate. Only a creature with no natural enemies would try to help a predator. Yolanda was starting to understand why the other species were so afraid. To them, Sarah's actions looked like the behavior of something so powerful that it had no fear of being eaten. Humans must seem like apex predators themselves. Back in the shuttle, Sarah was running out of options. The cubs were getting hungry, and she could hear security teams setting up some kind of equipment outside. She looked down at the three little faces peeking out of her hoodie pocket. Don't worry, she whispered to them. I won't let anyone hurt you. One of the cubs made a tiny sound that was somewhere between a purr and a squeak. To Sarah, it sounded adorable. But outside her shuttle, that same sound made every alien species jump with terror. Thekvar's biosensors translated the cub's purr into what sounded like a hunting call. His computer systems, designed to protect Vraxian warriors from the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, were screaming warnings about imminent attack. The sounds are getting more frequent, his sensor officer reported. I think the creatures are becoming agitated. Prepare the boarding party, Thekvar ordered. Full battle armor and heavy weapons. If that human won't surrender the creatures, we'll take them by force. Director Martinez heard the order through the communication system. Commander, please. Dr. Chen is not a criminal. She's just trying to help some animals. Your species' idea of help is going to get everyone on this station killed, Thekvar replied. The boarding will commence in 10 minutes. As the countdown began, Sarah held the three cubs closer to her chest. She had no idea that what she thought was kindness looked like terrifying predator behavior to every other species in the galaxy. All she knew was that three innocent babies needed her protection, and she would not let them down. Outside her shuttle, aliens from across the galaxy prepared for battle against what they thought was humanity's most dangerous secret weapon. Security Chief Kalath moved slowly toward the sealed shuttle. Her forearms carried different weapons, and her compound eyes watched for any sign of movement. Behind her, 6 other security officers followed in full battle gear. The Zythek officer had faced many dangerous situations, but never anything like this. Remember, she clicked through her voice translator. Shadowmaw cats can move faster than you can see. Stay together and watch each other's backs. Through her hive mind connection, she felt the fear of every Zythek on the station. Thousands of her sisters were sharing the same worry. If the cubs escaped, the whole station could become a hunting ground. Director Martinez watched from the command center. Her hands shook as she spoke into her communication device. Sarah, the security team is coming aboard. Please don't do anything dangerous. Inside the shuttle, Sarah heard the outer door opening. She looked down at the 3 cubs sleeping in her pocket. They were so peaceful and small. She could not understand why everyone was so afraid of them. It's okay, little ones, she whispered. I won't let anyone hurt you. Commander Thekvar watched from his ship, his tail moved back and forth with nervous energy. All units, be ready. If those creatures escape the shuttle, we may need to destroy the entire docking bay. The airlock finished cycling, and Kalath stepped into Sarah's shuttle. Her weapons were ready, and her sensors were scanning for movement. Behind her, the security team spread out to cover every corner. Dr. Chen, Kalath called out, we are here to secure the dangerous animals. Please step away from them slowly. Sarah stood up from her pilot seat. She was still wearing her old hoodie with the pocket that held the cubs. To Kalath's sensors, the biosignatures were coming from Sarah's chest area. Security chief, there's been a mistake, Sarah said. These aren't dangerous animals. They're just babies who lost their mother. Kalath's compound eyes focused on Sarah's hoodie pocket. Through her translator, she heard another tiny sound. Her threat detection systems immediately identified it as a juvenile predator call. Every instinct in her insect-like body told her to run. Show me the animals, Kalath ordered. Slowly, Sarah carefully reached into her hoodie pocket. The first cub she pulled out was gray and fluffy, about the size of a small kitten. It blinked its big yellow eyes and made a tiny squeaking sound as it yawned. Kalath froze. Her multiple brains tried to process what she was seeing. This creature was supposed to be a terrifying killer. Instead, it looked like a stuffed toy that someone had made too cute. This is a Shadowmaw cat? She clicked in confusion. Well, yes, Sarah said. But look at him. He's just a baby. The cub in Sarah's hand stretched its tiny legs and made another squeaking sound. Through Kalath's translation equipment, that squeak registered as the hunting roar of a full-grown Shadowmaw, but her eyes were seeing something completely different. One by one, Sarah pulled the other two cubs from her pocket. They were all equally small and harmless-looking. One of them tried to climb up Sarah's arm but was too clumsy and fell back into her hands. Another one curled into a ball and went back to sleep. These are the terrifying predators that everyone is afraid of, Kalath asked. Behind her, the security team lowered their weapons. One of them started making a sound that might have been laughter. Through their shared hive mind, the revelation spread to every Zythek on the station in seconds. On the command bridge, Dr. Kethara suddenly stopped clicking in alarm. Her collective consciousness was sharing new information. Director Martinez, she said. The Shadowmaw cats are very small. How small? Yolanda asked. Small enough to fit in a human's clothing pocket. All three of them. Commander Thekvar was listening to the security reports with growing confusion. That's impossible. Shadowmaw cubs are born the size of adult wolves. They're dangerous from birth, sir, his sensor officer said quietly. I'm looking at the video feed from the shuttle. The humans appears to be holding tiny versions of the creatures. Thekvar pushed his officer aside and looked at the screen himself. What he saw made his yellow eyes grow wide. Dr. Chen was sitting cross-legged on the floor of her shuttle, letting three impossibly small Shadowmaw cubs walk around on her legs. One of them was trying to catch her shoelace. By the scales of my ancestors, he whispered. They're so. Back in the shuttle, Sarah was answering Kalath's questions. I found them 2 days ago. Their mother was killed in a landslide. They were crying and hungry, so I fed them some of my emergency rations mixed with water. And they didn't try to bite you? Kalath asked. Why would they? Look at their teeth. Sarah gently opened one cub's mouth to show tiny white fangs that were barely bigger than needles. They can't even chew solid food yet. Kalath used her communication device to report to the command center. Director Martinez, the situation is unusual. The predators are indeed Shadowmaw cats, but they appear to be very young. They show no aggressive behavior toward the human. Through the station's communication system, everyone heard Kalath's report. In the science section, Dr. Kethara's collective mind began updating its calculations. Instead of station-destroying monsters, they were dealing with creatures that could barely walk in a straight line. Ambassador Gleese's Ara had been listening from her water tank. I don't understand, she bubbled. How can the most feared predators in the galaxy be so harmless? They're not harmless, Sarah called out. having heard the ambassador's question. "They're just babies. Give them a few years, and they'll be full-sized hunters. But right now, they need milk and someone to take care of them." The revelation was spreading beyond the station. Through quantum communication networks, word was reaching other worlds. The most feared predators in the galaxy had been found sleeping in a human's pocket like pet kittens. Commander Thekvar finally spoke again, his voice much quieter than before. "Dr. Chen, why did you save them? You must know what they will become." Sarah looked down at the three cubs, who were now playing with her shoelaces. "Because they needed help. I couldn't just leave them to die." "But they're predators, natural enemies. They're babies," Sarah said simply. "And babies need protection, no matter what species they are." The silence that followed was different from before. Instead of fear and anger, it was filled with something else. Wonder, maybe, or confusion. The aliens on the station were trying to understand something about humans that they had never seen before. Dr. Kethara was the first to break the silence. "The human shows parenting behavior toward the offspring of another species. This is unprecedented in our database." "It's not unprecedented for humans," Sarah laughed. "We do this all the time. We adopt puppies, kittens, birds, even reptiles. If something needs help, we help it." "Even if it might kill you when it grows up?" Kalath asked. Sarah shrugged. "That's a problem for future Sarah to worry about. Right now, these three need someone to take care of them." As the security team watched, one of the cubs managed to climb onto Sarah's shoulder. It settled down in the warm spot between her neck and her hoodie, making a sound that was somewhere between a purr and a squeak. The sound that had terrified an entire space station was just a baby yawning. 3 weeks had passed since the Great Shadow Maw scare, and life on Zephyr Station had changed in ways no one expected. "Doctor." Sarah Chen walked through the corridors with 3 small gray shapes following behind her like a fuzzy parade. The cubs had grown a little, but they were still small enough that Sarah sometimes found all 3 of them sleeping in her lab coat pockets. Dr. Kethara watched from her lab window as Sarah passed by. The Zythek scientist had spent every day since the incident, studying human behavior through her collective mind network. Her sisters on dozens of worlds were sharing data about this strange species that adopted predators. "Still trying to understand them?" asked Dr. Yithak, another Zythek researcher. "The collective has run over 10,000 simulations," Kethara replied. "In every scenario where a species adopts the young of their natural enemies, that species either goes extinct or becomes the dominant predator on their planet. And humans? Humans did both. They went extinct as prey animals and became the dominant species on Earth by making friends with wolves, cats, and other hunters." On the other side of the station, Ambassador Gleesa's Ara was recording her daily report for the Nereid Diplomatic Corps. The blue-skinned alien floated in her water tank, watching Sarah through the transparent walls. Day 21 of observation, she spoke into her recorder. "The human continues to care for the juvenile predators, despite knowing they will grow into killing machines. Today I witnessed her feeding them by hand, while they sat in her lap. This behavior suggests either complete lack of survival instincts or absolute confidence in her ability to handle dangerous situations." She paused as one of the cubs tried to climb onto Sarah's head and got stuck hanging from her ponytail. Sarah gently helped it down while laughing. "Additional note," Gleesara continued, "the human finds predator behavior amusing. This may explain why her species was able to colonize 47 worlds, including 12 that other species consider too dangerous to visit." In his quarters, Commander Thekvar was writing his own reports. The Vraxian warrior had been studying human military history since the incident. What he found both impressed and worried him. Personal log, day 21. He spoke to his recording device. "The humans have been keeping predators as allies for over 15,000 years. They call them dogs and use them for hunting, protection, and companionship. Analysis of human warfare shows that armies with dogs are 30% more effective than armies without them." He looked out his window and saw Sarah teaching the cubs to walk on leashes. They kept getting tangled up and falling over, which made Sarah laugh even harder. The human Dr. Chen shows no fear when handling creatures that could dismember a Vraxian warrior. Either humans are foolishly brave, or they understand something about predator behavior that we do not. The cubs had become celebrities throughout the station. Every day, groups of alien researchers would gather to watch Sarah's daily training sessions. She was teaching them basic commands, though they were still too young to understand most of them. "Sit," Sarah said, holding a treat above one cub's head. The little creature looked up at her with big yellow eyes and promptly fell over backward. The watching aliens made various sounds of amusement. Dr. Kethara approached with a data tablet. "Dr. Chen, my collective would like permission to record your interactions with the cubs. We are compiling a database of human pack bonding behaviors." "Sure," Sarah said, helping the fallen cub back to its feet. "But why is everyone so interested in this? It's just normal human behavior." "That's exactly what makes it so fascinating," Kethara replied. "Your normal behavior involves forming emotional bonds with creatures that other species flee from in terror." Ambassador Gleese's Ara's voice came through the water tank speakers. "Dr. Chen, I have a question. On your homeworld, do humans really live with predatory animals?" "Oh yeah, lots of them," Sarah answered while untangling a cub from her shoelaces. "Dogs, cats, ferrets, snakes, birds of prey, even some people keep tigers and bears. We love animals, but how do you survive?" Glycera asked. "We don't just survive. We thrive. Humans with pets tend to be happier and healthier than humans without them. Having an animal friend makes life better." Commander Thekvar had been listening from the doorway. "Dr. Chen, may I ask you something?" "Of course, Commander. Do you understand that these cubs will grow into creatures that could kill you?" Sarah looked down at one of the cubs, which was currently trying to attack her pen. It was having trouble because the pen was almost as big as the cub's head. "Maybe," she said, "but I raised them from babies. They know I'm their family. Family doesn't hurt family." "Always?" Thekvar pressed. "Well, no. Sometimes family fights. But they also protect each other and love each other. These cubs will grow up knowing that humans are their pack. That makes us safer, not more dangerous." Dr. Kethara's collective mind was processing this information at high speed. "You're saying that by caring for your enemy's children, you turn enemies into allies?" "Exactly," Sarah said. "It's not just about these 3 cubs. If word gets out that a human saved Shadowmaw cubs, other Shadowmaw cats might be less likely to attack humans in the future. We're building a reputation as friends, not threats." The aliens around her went silent as they considered this. The idea was so simple, yet so foreign to their way of thinking. Ambassador Glycera was the first to speak. "Your species weaponizes compassion." Sarah frowned. "I wouldn't call it weaponizing. We just believe that kindness usually works better than violence." "But the result is the same," Thekvar observed. "Other species fear you because you show no fear. You show no fear because you make friends with the things that others fear." One of the cubs had managed to climb onto Sarah's shoulder and was now trying to groom her hair with its tiny tongue. She giggled as the rough tongue tickled her ear. "Look at him," she said to the assembled aliens. "How could anyone be afraid of something so cute?" The aliens looked at the cub. To their eyes, they saw a miniature version of the most efficient killing machine on Kepler 442b. Its tiny claws could already cut through fabric, and its teeth were sharp enough to pierce skin. In a few years, this cute creature would be able to hunt in perfect silence and kill prey twice its size. But they also saw something else. They saw trust. The cub trusted Sarah completely, and she trusted it in return. This level of mutual trust between predator and prey was something none of their species had ever achieved. Dr. Kethara's compound eyes focused on Sarah. "Dr. Chen, my collective, has reached a conclusion about human behavior." "What's that?" "Your species doesn't see other creatures as predators or prey. You see them as potential friends." Sarah smiled. "That's probably the nicest thing anyone's ever said about humans." As the group dispersed, each alien carried with them a new understanding of humanity. Humans weren't just fearless. They were something far more powerful than that. They were hopeful. The cubs, meanwhile, had found a sunny spot on the floor and curled up together for a nap, completely unaware that they had helped change how an entire galaxy viewed their human caretaker's species. 6 months later, Professor Sarah Chen walked into her new classroom on Zephyr Station. The sign on the door read, Interspecies Behavioral Studies Department, and below that, in smaller letters, Dr. Chen, Department Head. Behind her, 3 much larger gray shapes padded silently across the floor. The cubs were no longer cubs. Shadow, Storm, and Star were now the size of large dogs, with sleek muscles and bright yellow eyes. Their claws could cut through metal, and their teeth could crush bone. They were, by any measure, dangerous predators. They were also Sarah's teaching assistants. "Good morning, class," Sarah said to the group of students from 5 different species. "Today we're going to discuss pack bonding behaviors and how they affect interspecies relationships." A young Vraxian student raised his hand. "Professor Chen, is it safe to have the Shadow Maw cats in the classroom?" Sarah looked back at Storm, who was currently lying on his back while Star groomed his belly. Shadow had found a sunny spot by the window and was taking a nap. "What do you think?" she asked the student. "Do they look dangerous to you right now?" "Well, no," the Vraxian admitted. "But my government's military academy now studies your animal bonding techniques. They say humans might be the most effective warriors in the galaxy because of your relationship with predators." Sarah laughed. "I'm not a warrior. I'm a scientist who happened to find 3 orphaned babies." Dr. Kethara, who was auditing the class, raised one of her 4 arms. "Professor, my collective has published a paper about this incident. We found that the story has changed how 17 different species view humanity." "How so?" Sarah asked. "Before, species saw humans as reckless and unpredictable. Now they see humans as potentially powerful allies or dangerous enemies, depending on how they treat you." From her portable water tank, Ambassador Glyce's Ara added her thoughts. "The Nereid Diplomatic Corps has completely rewritten our first contact protocols. We now include specific instructions about respecting human compassion instincts." Sarah sat on the edge of her desk, and Storm immediately got up to lie down beside her feet. "I still don't understand why everyone thinks this is such a big deal. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years." A new voice spoke from the back of the room. Commander Thekvar entered with a young Vraxian officer beside him. "Because, Professor, no other species in the galaxy has successfully domesticated apex predators. You make the impossible look routine." "Commander," Sarah smiled, "are you here to arrest me again?" "Actually, I'm here to learn," Thekvar replied. "This is Lieutenant Zektar. The Vraxian Council has ordered our military to study human-animal bonding techniques. We want to understand how your species creates loyalty in creatures bred for hunting and killing." Lieutenant Zektar stared nervously at the 3 Shadowmaw cats. "Professor Chen, how do you know they won't turn on you?" "Predators are unpredictable." Sarah looked down at Shadow, who had woken up from his nap and was now rubbing against her leg like a giant cat. "Because I raised them. They know I'm family, and family protects family." "But what happens when their hunting instincts take over?" the lieutenant pressed. "Then they hunt," Sarah said simply. "But they hunt for me, not against me. Watch this." She reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a small toy mouse. The moment the 3 cats saw it, their entire demeanor changed. Their ears pricked up, their muscles tensed, and their eyes locked onto the target with laser focus. The alien students backed away nervously as the cats went into hunting mode. But Sarah just smiled and threw the toy mouse across the room. All 3 cats pounced at once, moving so fast they were barely visible. The toy mouse disappeared under a pile of gray fur and sharp claws. For a moment, the classroom was filled with growls and the sound of tearing fabric. Then Sarah said, "Bring it back." Immediately, the hunting stopped. Star picked up the destroyed remains of the toy mouse and carried it back to Sarah, dropping it at her feet. All three cats sat down and looked at her expectantly, their tails swishing with pride. "Good boys," Sarah said, scratching each one behind the ears. They purred like giant house cats. The alien students stared in amazement. They had just watched 3 apex predators switch from killing mode to pet mode in seconds. All because a human asked them to. "That," said Commander Thikvar quietly, "is why the Galactic Military Councils are taking human-animal bonding seriously. You don't just tame predators. You make them into willing partners." Dr. Kethara's compound eyes were focused intently on the scene. "The collective has a question, Professor. If humans can create this kind of loyalty in natural predators, what does that mean for relationships between sentient species?" Sarah thought about that for a moment. "I think it means that if we treat each other with respect and kindness, we can build the same kind of trust. These cats trust me because I've never given them a reason not to. Maybe that's how all relationships should work." Ambassador Glyce's Ara's voice bubbled through her speakers. "The Nereid Council has reached a similar conclusion. They have voted to propose a new alliance treaty with humanity. We believe your species' approach to relationships could benefit galactic peace." The conversation was interrupted by an alarm. Not the panic-inducing code orange from 6 months ago, but a simple communication alert. "Zephyr Station, this is Patrol Ship Destiny requesting permission to dock," came a voice through the speakers. In the control room, the new traffic controller, a young human named Marcus, checked his sensors. "Patrol Ship Destiny, you are cleared for Docking Bay 7. Welcome to Zephyr Station." But the rookie Vraxian captain on the patrol ship was not prepared for what his biosensors found. "Control. I'm detecting multiple apex predator signatures in your education section. Should I sound an alert?" Marcus laughed. "Negative, Destiny. Those are just Professor Chen's cats. They're part of the curriculum now." There was a long pause. "Did you say cats?" "Yep. Shadow, Storm, and Star. They're teaching assistants. Totally harmless. Unless you're a toy mouse." In the classroom, Sarah heard the exchange and smiled. She looked around at her students from different worlds, all of whom had learned to see beyond their initial fears. "And that," she said to her class, "is how the galaxy learned that the scariest sound in the universe might just be a baby yawning." Storm chose that moment to let out a huge yawn of his own, showing off teeth that could tear through battle armor. But instead of fear, the sound now brought smiles to the faces of everyone in the room. Dr. Kethara raised her hand one more time. "Professor, my collective has one final question." "What's that? Are humans currently adopting the offspring of any other apex predators? We want to be prepared for the next time your species befriends something we consider terrifying." "All." Sarah grinned and reached into her other desk drawer. She pulled out a small, furry creature with too many legs and compound eyes. It chirped happily when it saw her. "Well," she said, "I did find this little guy last week. I think he's some kind of space spider." But he was all alone and scared. So, the classroom erupted in a mixture of panic and laughter as the students realized that their professor had done it again. Somewhere in the galaxy, another species was about to discover that their most feared predator was taking afternoon naps in a human's pocket. And on Zephyr Station, the sound of baby roars would never again be cause for alarm.